Okay, so Rocky 4 is my favorite movie of all time. Rocky's my favorite franchise. Hands down, it's not even close. I grew up watching this movie. I actually saw it in the theaters in 1985, although I can't really remember because I was too young. The only thing I do remember for sure was that we got to the movie late, and I do remember them chanting USA when Rocky was fighting Drago. So I actually got to see this director's cut in the movie theater, which was a great experience. The crowd was into it. The movie looked great on the screen, and it was a really good experience actually seeing it on the big screen again. Because the first time I can't really remember anything. So I'm probably gonna jump around in this review a little bit, but I wanted to give you guys my thoughts. I thought actually the movie was pretty good. I've seen it 3 times already. I watched it once in the movie theater and the additional 2 times at home. I actually went back and watched the original Rocky 4 to refresh my memory, even though I know that movie like the back of my hand. I mean, I know that movie line for line. I used to watch it on video all the time, even before I owned it. I used to rent it on VHS and all that stuff. So I know the movie pretty well. All right, so let's get into the director's cut. It actually opens up with a long flashback to Rocky 3. They actually show when Clubber Lang knocks him out the first time, when Apollo goes to the gym. He finds Rocky. Even before that, when Rocky throws the helmet at the statue, Apollo talks to him at the gym, talks about the eye of the tiger. Then they show the rematch. I felt like that really wasn't necessary. It felt a little long and drawn out, but I understood why he did it. I mean, I figure Stallone, his mentality, his thinking was that almost like you didn't see any of the other Rocky movies. Like this is the only one that you saw, so he wanted to show you guys the relationship between Apollo and Rocky, which I still felt was unnecessary, but I kind of get what he was going for. I still prefer the original Rocky 4 opening, especially with the USA and Russia gloves, man. I mean, I know it looks a little cheesy and one of them breaks before it hits the other one, but it's awesome when you hear the eye of the tiger and the fist is turning and the other fist is turning, the Soviet flag and the USA flag, they come together. That's great. And then you hear them in the background before they go into the fight with Clubber Lang and you hear Eye of the Tiger and all of that. It's just a great opening. I prefer that one. I really didn't like the fonts they used with the Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago scrolling across the screen. It didn't look good. I felt kind of cheap. I was surprised. I mean, they could have done some USA coloring or something. That felt a little weak. I didn't like it. Now, they did cut out the scene where Apollo fights Rocky and that behind closed doors match that nobody knew about, only the two of them. I remember in Creed 1, Rocky actually tells Creed's son that Apollo won that fight, but Stallone didn't write the first Creed movie. So, and I actually saw on Instagram, Stallone said that Rocky actually won that fight. So I like to believe that Rocky won the fight. And I think in the Rocky 4 novelization, I think Rocky won too. But they cut that whole scene out, and I really loved that scene. I felt like it was a good way to start the movie. Completely cut that out. They also cut out the part where after that fight, where Rocky drives up to his house and his son has the camcorder, and he's like, "Oh, who gave you that hat? Who gave you that black eye?" They cut that whole thing out. Now, I understood why they cut it out because that ties into the birthday party with Paulie and the robot. But I really enjoyed that scene because it's a really good scene with his son, you know? I really enjoyed that scene and they cut it out. Now, here's the problem, and again, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit. I understand why he cut out why he cut the robot out. It's a little corny, you know, it's the 80s and everything. But when you cut the robot out, you're also cutting his son out because his son had a lot of scenes with the robot. So you're getting rid of the son. So, and I'll get into that a little bit later on, but that was, kind of like the son was like kind of like collateral damage to the robot, you know? So they took that whole thing out. They took the birthday party out, which, I thought the birthday party was fine. It was a little silly in the original, but I thought it was fine, and they got rid of that. Yeah, they also got rid of that scene with Adrian, where it's the anniversary, comes in the bedroom with the birthday cake and everything, which I never liked that scene, man. I used to always kind of like fast forward through that scene. I never cared for it, personally. So I didn't mind that's like the only scene they cut out of this that I was like, yeah, it's a good idea they cut out that scene. So the movie basically, it jumps from the part with the Rocky 3 flashback, and then it jumps right to Apollo in the pool when he has the tennis ball and he has it with his dog, and he sees Drago on TV and everything. That scene was a little bit longer, but here's the other thing: they cut out Drago arriving in America. And I felt that was a really, really good scene when Drago arrived in America, and they got rid of that. And I really wish they would have kept that scene. I felt it was a pretty good scene. But the other thing is, they also cut out that scene where well, they cut out part of it where Drago's wife says, well, they ask about the blood doping, right? About steroid use and everything, and he says, oh, how do you explain his freakish strength? And she says, oh, like you're Popeye, he ate his spinach every day, and they kind of like chuckle about that. And she got almost completely cut out of this movie, and I don't know if Stallone still has some beef with his ex-wife Brigitte Nielsen or what, but she was like completely cut out of this movie, and I really liked her lines in the original one. I felt like they shouldn't have cut all her lines out. They basically gave it to the other guy. Like the manager, I forget his name. So it basically jumps from the pool, a scene at Rocky's house, where Apollo's talking to him. This is a brand new scene that we've never seen before, where Rocky's basically telling him that he's been offered to fight with Drago as an exhibition, and Apollo's telling him like, hey, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna take it? And Rocky's like, oh, I don't know. It's actually a pretty good scene. The only thing I didn't like is for some reason, and I don't know if maybe Stallone didn't have like the close-up footage, maybe. It got lost. He only had the audio. But it was like a lot of wide shots. And he does this later on in the movie, which I really didn't care for. With the dialogue, they're kind of like wide shots when Rocky and Apollo are talking. And eventually they close up on Apollo. But I didn't like that shot, I think that the close-up, you should have those close-up shots, not the wide shots. I didn't care for that stuff. But I thought the scene was actually pretty good. And it actually ties into Creed 2, because I remember in Creed 2, Rocky tells Creed's son, Adonis, he tells him there was supposed to be me in that ring that night. Now, I thought he just meant that he should have fought him first. I didn't realize that he was supposed to fight him first. He had actually been offered the fight. So that's a pretty good scene. But I didn't think they needed to get rid of the other scene. I know it had the robot again and had this iconic tracksuit. They cut out the scene where he's on he calls Rocky when he's cleaning the car. Another great scene with his son is gone, where he's washing the car and he say, "Listen, I fight so you don't have to fight." And then the phone rings. I guess it's the maid that tells him Apollo's on the phone. He grabs it off I guess the robot had a phone, and he says, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you coming out? Oh, I'm getting dizzy." They cut that completely out. That could have segued into him going over there to Apollo's house to talk about everything. It goes to the dining room. Now, this is the only cut of the robot, which I get them taken out when the robot comes in and you hear that song "Double or Nothing." Another song I never even cared for. I didn't like that song. Only song on that soundtrack that I didn't like. Oh, you know what? I actually forgot about this. When Rocky beats Mr. T, Clubber Lang, I should say, they play "Sweetest Victory" instead of "Eye of the Tiger." Now, I was happy that "Sweetest Victory" was in this movie. It was always on the Rocky IV soundtrack. I always wondered why it wasn't in the movie. They put it in this one. But I felt like they should have played Sweetest Victory at the end when he beats Drago. That would have been perfect if they played Sweetest Victory. I always like that song. It's on the Rocky IV soundtrack. Should have been in the movie, but they played it in the beginning. I didn't really care for that. But anyway, back to the scene in the dining room. So that scene, they cut out the robot part or whatever. I understood why they cut it out. That always felt a little weird when they interrupt the conversation. They're all talking. It's Paulie's there, Rocky's there. Adrian is there, and Adrian's trying to tell Apollo not to fight, and the scene actually plays out pretty well. They cut out the line where Paulie says, "Oh, you ever tried these comics?" And Apollo says no. So Adrian actually gets up and walks out, and in this version, Rocky tells Apollo, "Hold on a second, I'll be right back," something to that effect, and he follows Adrian into the kitchen, which is actually a pretty good scene, where he's talking to Adrian. Adrian's very, very concerned. She knows what's gonna happen, And she's telling Rocky, "Listen, he's not going to do this without you. Like without you backing him up, he won't do it." So she's trying to kind of convince Rocky not to help him. This scene is actually pretty good. I did enjoy this scene. I don't know why they cut it out of the original. It was actually a pretty good scene. So now we go to the scene where Rocky's sitting down. He's talking to Apollo while they're watching the original fight, and they're playing music in the background. And that's a new addition. They're playing some Bill Conti score, which I like Bill Conti. Don't get me wrong. But I prefer the original scene where you just heard the fight in the background, and there was a couple pieces of dialogue that they cut out, and you could see that it was cut out. Like, I think even if you never saw the original movie, you could tell that some of the dialogue was cut down. And I'm like, why are they cutting down this dialogue? I believe they cut out the part where Rocky says, we can't be born again. That whole thing. They cut that out. There's another line I forget off the top of my head. They just shortened it. If I didn't like the way that it felt, they didn't do that handshake. He didn't say I feel sorry for that guy. They cut that out. I felt this version was worse of that meeting. I didn't care for it. Now we go over to the press conference, and the press conference was okay. A lot, again with the wide shots, or whatever. I didn't like that they took out the part where what's his name? Apollo pats this guy Drago on the shoulder. They took that out. The tone was very different. Even when Rocky says the line about the ladder. It's just they're this is the common theme throughout this movie. They're using alternate takes, and I think the alternate takes that they were using weren't necessarily for the better. Like, these weren't better alternate takes. I don't understand why. That's another thing is, and I'm gonna jump around a little bit, but I felt like they kind of deceived us in the marketing. And I love Stallone, man. I don't want to say anything bad about the guy. He's my favorite actor of all time. I mean, I can't tell you how much. I have all of his movies. But then when they talk about 41 minutes or whatever it was of new footage, it really wasn't, because they took out so much and then they put this stuff in, and it was like a lot of alternate takes. So they're counting the alternate takes as new footage, even though it's really the same line delivered a different way. And it's not necessarily, a better way. So then we go over to the fight, at the MGM Grand and everything. And this scene they took out, to me, it's criminal. It is absolutely criminal. They took out the locker room scene between Rocky and Apollo. Now, later on, they kind of show a clip of it in a flashback, and I'll get to that later. But that was such a great scene where he says, I'm younger, I'm faster. He says, I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm quicker, whatever he says. He says, oh, and then he says, I feel like I eat nails, and then Rocky says, oh, snails, I never ate those things. It's a good scene. You see the friendship, and Apollo says, this is us against them, and I love that line. Let me tell you, I guess because I grew up in that era as an '80s kid, during the whole Cold War or whatever. There was a whole patriotic theme, at that time, everyone was proud to be an American. I'm still proud to be American, as you can see the flag in the background, So I like the whole thing about Apollo. Like, he really, really felt like he was an American, and Rocky was an American. Despite the fact they grew up in different places, of different races, these guys were in it together, The whole it's us against them. And maybe you don't know what I'm talking about now, but you will when it's over. I just love that whole scene, and they took it out, and that was criminal. To me, that was absolutely criminal for them to take that part out. They even took out the scene where Drago's wife is talking Apollo's wife, and she says, they're sportsmen, not soldiers. I hope we could be friends after this. They took that out. Again, they wiped out a lot of her dialogue. A lot of Brigitte Nielsen's dialogue gets, And I thought that was a good scene. I thought they shouldn't have taken it out. We go up to Drago. There's a couple new scenes when Drago goes up. The whole living in America thing, different angles. You see from his perspective how he's like, what's going on here? Some of it was okay. I didn't like the fact they took out the when Rocky, Tony Duke, and Paulie come out. They all have the Hugo Boss sweaters of different colors, and they're looking around like, what is this? They took that out. Now I don't know if Stallone got rid of that, because whoever was in charge of Hugo Boss at the time in the 80s said after this movie came out, said it was a really bad movie. After they, actually Hugo Boss was promoted throughout the movie, and maybe that's why he took it out. I don't know. You still kind of see flashes of them ringside, but you don't see like it was in the original. And it was kind of funny too when Rocky's wife's looking at him. They show a quick little scene, but that was really cut down. The introduction to the crowd when they introduce Rocky Balboa, and I could understand them taking that out. I mean, I enjoy it because I'm a Rocky fan. I like to see Rocky get cheered. To see how popular he was. But I could see why they took it out, because they kind of wanted to just focus on Drago and Apollo. I will say this. The Drago versus Apollo fight I thought was really, really good in this one. I think it's actually better than the original one, to be honest with you. I thought it was really good. It was brutal. Apollo puts on more of a fight, which I enjoyed. Apollo didn't get just smashed. Like, he was fighting back, which was really cool. We saw some different angles. But some of the dialogue got cut down. I don't know why. Again, it's a common theme throughout this movie. They cut out some of the dialogue. I did enjoy the scene where Rocky's telling him, no, don't do this to me, and Apollo says, I'm doing this for myself. But there was bits of dialogue, missing throughout that fight they took out for whatever reason. But the fight was good. I did really enjoy this. I enjoyed this fight better than the original. Although they did make some tweaks. In this, they cut out the line from Tony Duke the second time when he says, throw the damn towel. That's such a great line, and Rocky hesitates. In this one, he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't hesitate. It's just that when he threw the towel, it was just kind of like too late. Like Drago hit him and that was it. So I don't know if they're kind of taking the blame off of Rocky for not throwing the towel. I always like the fact that he hesitated. I like the fact that they took out the part where he's hesitating and then Apollo says no, like not to throw the towel. And if you watch the original trailer for Rocky 4, you actually see clearly that Apollo's telling him no, don't throw the towel. It's a little blurry in the theatrical cut, but in the original trailer you actually see his face. You see him say no. Looks a little corny maybe, but that's why they changed it. But either way, that's out of it. I did enjoy I did like his wife, was like, Apollo. That was really good stuff. Now this guy talks even more. Drago, he starts saying, I will defeat real champion. He says, soon the whole world will know my name, Drago. I didn't really like that too much. I just prefer the whole he dies. They took, and this is another criminal thing they took out. They took out the stare down when he's holding Apollo and Rocky's looking up at Drago and they have that stare down. They got rid of that. They do extend the stare down in the ring in between rounds, but they took out that stare down. It's a great scene. So they go to the funeral. The funeral scene was really, really good in this. They played some Bill Conti music. I really enjoyed this funeral scene. I don't know why they cut it down so drastically. Tony Duke gives a speech, man. He gives a real powerful speech about the warrior life and everything. It was really, really, really well done. I absolutely love this scene. And then Rocky gives a speech. And Rocky's practically in tears, breaking down. He says, everything I have is because of you. It's a great, great, great scene. I really wish they would have kept this in the original. They should have, instead of cutting it down. They did cut out a little bit of his original what he says. They cut out the part where he says he always did things the way you wanted. I didn't understand that, but I understand it now. They cut that down. They actually show him talking to Adrian, which wasn't in the original. And he's telling, Adrian, it's my fault. I should have stopped it or whatever the case is. But in the trailer for the Rocky 4 Directors Cut, there was another line where he says, I got to take everything he's got. And they should have kept that in there. They took it out for whatever reason. Now you got the Rocky Commission scene when he's meeting with the boxing commission. This scene was good. I remember seeing this in the original trailer. I really wanted to see this scene. I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, the acting wasn't that good in the scene, if I'm being honest. But I actually did like the scene. And it seemed like the commission wasn't concerned about Rocky's health. They just didn't want to get embarrassed. They thought he was going to go out there and lose to the Russians, so they didn't want him to fight him. But it was a good scene. I liked it. So basically, the commission just doesn't want him. They say they're not going to sanction the fight. Then he goes to the press conference. Again, more of these wide shots, which the wide shots, I didn't really, again, I said this before, I'll say it again. I really didn't care for these wide shots. They used them was a little different. Again, getting back to his wife, to Brigitte Nielsen, Ivan Drago's wife, in the movie, like they cut out her lines when she starts talking about the death threats and everything. That is gone. I did like the addition with Paulie being held back by Rocky. That was actually pretty cool because he's going to attack Drago's, I guess, his manager. Then we go over to Adrian. She gets to the house. It plays out similar to the original, where the reporters are all there. Eventually, Rocky comes at night. The scene was really, really cut down. Again, it was criminal. There was one part that was really good where Rocky's like, oh, Adrian never lies. And the scene is actually extended a little bit. His reaction is really good. But they cut out the part where Rocky says, to beat me, he's going to have to kill me. And to do that, he's going to have to be willing to stand, there toe-to-toe, and he's got to be willing to die himself. They got rid of that scene. That scene is awesome, man. I love that scene. That scene. They kind of, I'll get back to it in the training montage a little bit later, where they kind of, you hear it, but I'll get to that in a second. Criminal. They shouldn't have gotten rid of it. I did not like it. I mean, the scene is good, but they also play like the Bill Conti music, which I don't mind. But then like it goes from Bill Conti to No Easy Way Out, and it doesn't feel right. The editing in this movie is not good. I got to be honest. The editing is not good in this movie. So we go on to the No Easy Way Out montage, which the sound effects of the car are enhanced. They sound really good. But what Stallone did in this, I can't agree with. What he did was the No Easy Way Out montage is black and white. Now, it's black and white when Rocky's remembering the past. And I saw the behind-the-scenes documentary about this, and he explained that, he's going to see in black and white in the past. The present is all in color. But it just doesn't work for me. I don't know. I don't know if I'm so used to it, the original, but it just, I didn't care for it, I did enjoy that he didn't do any of the close-ups that he did in the original when he was driving the car. It looked a little bit better, I think, like this, without the close-ups. The black and white didn't work for me. Now we go on to the scene with Rocky and his son. It was actually pretty good. I did enjoy this scene. They cut out a little bit of the original, but this was fine. Like, and he has a really good line when he tells, tells his son, he says, there's gonna be times where you got to do something that people don't agree with, but you still got to do it. It's gonna be right for you, and you have to do what you have to do because you're the one who has to live with it and live with yourself. Basically saying, like, at the end of the day, the choices you make, you have to live with, nobody else. That's a great line. And it's true. It's true. The decision you make in life, you have to live with. And sometimes you have to make decisions people don't agree with, but it's your life. That was a great, great, great scene. They also had the additional scene. With him and Adrian, where Adrian's trying to convince him not to leave. I really, really enjoyed the scene. It's very, very dramatic. I really enjoyed the scene. And he flashes back to Rocky too, and he tells her, he says, listen, you remember a long time ago I told you, I'm not going to ask you to stop being a woman. Don't ask me to stop being a man. Great scene. And then, he leaves, and then he looks up at the window and sees her. Which I actually, in the original version, that scene is not even there. I actually did like in the original version because I always thought, like, she didn't back him up, and Rocky said, the hell with this, I'm out of here. And that was it. But this shows that they did still speak, even after she agreed with him not going over to Russia. So they get over to Russia, and they're still playing In the Burning Heart. When they're getting out of the plane, there's actually a funny part where Rocky tells Paulie, he says, hey, why do you have Adrian's earmuffs? And he says, oh, they look better on me anyway. So it plays out very similar to In the Burning Heart when they land in Russia. They go over to the house. There's actually an additional scene where Tony Duke asked the Soviet guy, the guy that Paulie refers to as Dracula's cousin, where are the sparring partners? And the guy says, sparring partners? What are you talking about? I wasn't told that. There's no sparring partners or whatever, and kind of like blows him off. Which is actually pretty good because in the original, Paulie's like, no sparring partners, and you're. I always just assumed that Paulie was looking around and was like wondering, not that they told him, oh, you're not gonna have any sparring partners. Good scene. I like the addition. Paulie falls in the snow. The only thing is they cut out the part where he says, oh damn, but they also added a line where he says, this is a great place to die, or something to that effect, which is really funny. Paulie's, his scenes are a little cut down, but there's some funny stuff that he says that's still in here. Then they go into the house. They cut out the Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Christmas song from the Chipmunks. I guess they were probably going for a more serious tone, or maybe they lost the rights to that song. I don't know. I always liked it because it was always funny to me because I'm like, it's Christmas time and they're in the middle of Russia. They're here in the freezing cold, and it sounded like Paulie was listening to the Chipmunks on his earphones, which I always found really funny. So you get Rocky going upstairs and he's in his room, and this is what I mentioned earlier about the part where to beat me, he's gonna have to kill me. It's like they do like an inner monologue, like he's thinking to himself. He's putting up pictures on his mirror, and he's hearing himself say that. And it's like he's thinking. But I thought it was okay. But I really prefer him telling Adrian. That scene was so powerful in the original. I wish they would have kept it. Then you have Duke come upstairs, and again they do these wide shots, man. There is a close up of Duke, but when he tells him, you know what you got to do, do it. Do it. There's not that close up, and that's such a powerful line when he says "do it" the second time, and it's a wide shot. He didn't even say it. I think he doesn't even say it the second time. He just says it the first time. He says it once, and then Rocky doesn't say thanks, Tony. They cut that out completely. I don't know why. Now we go to the training montage. The training montage is very, very similar. There's a couple of differences. You hear the computer stuff. You hear the sound effects from the computers now. You didn't really hear that before. A couple different scenes they added in when Rocky's doing the pull-up. This is the first training montage. When he's doing the pull-ups, they show a little bit more of Drago when he's using some machine. I thought it was pretty good. The additions they were pretty much the same. You hear Rocky when he's struggling to pull the sled and stuff like that. It's a little more intense. You hear him like grunting, like struggling when he picks up the log. There's a different angle of him doing the pull-ups. Not bad. I enjoyed it. No problems with it. Again, Drago's wife is kind of like, I might have missed it. I think she might have been in the training montage, but they don't really show her like reacting to what Drago's doing for whatever reason. We also got a new scene too with Rocky hitting the heavy bag, which I actually like this scene. The first time I saw it, it felt a little weird to me. When I watched it the second and third time, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get used to this. I did like him hitting the heavy bag. That was actually a cool addition. Then we go to his wife getting to Russia. The scene is fairly similar. I think that they cut out, like, I guess Rocky's response when she says, I'm with you to the end. I think Rocky says to the end or something like that, or she says to the end again. It's kind of shortened. Very, very minor. We go on to Hearts on Fire. Again, very similar. Very similar training montage. Not too many additions. You know, they did a little bit different with the sit-ups where at first he's just doing the regular sit-ups. Later on, they show him throwing the punches, doing the sit-ups. They show Paulie's face when he's doing the ab work, and he's like, when Tony's saying no pain, they show us like, you know, Paulie like, oh shit, you know, that looks like it hurts. You know, that was cool. They showed Drago getting injected with the steroids, which I felt like if you're not going to mention that in the beginning of the movie about the blood doping, because they cut that whole part out, why even show him take steroids? Like, they should just gotten rid of that, you know? I also didn't like that they got rid of the scene where Rocky goes to his mirror and has Drago's picture and he crumples it up, man. Now, I know maybe it's a little corny now, but I really like that scene. They inserted a new scene with him jump roping that was pretty cool. But I like that scene. They took it out. You know, what are you gonna do? But it mostly plays out very, very, very similar. I didn't have too much of a problem with it. I thought it was fine. Then we go over to the actual boxing match. We get to the arena. They actually, and I didn't mention this earlier, the color palette has changed. It looks a little darker. It looks fine. I got used to it after I watched it like the second time. It looks pretty good. They have them in the locker room. There's some new footage in the locker room with Tony when he puts the what does he put on the Vaseline on Rocky. Adrian's in the locker room. And then, you know, Rocky's praying, and when he's praying, there's a short clip of Apollo telling him, "You don't know what I'm talking. You will when it's over." But it's a different take. Like, it's not even the original take from the original movie, and I didn't think it was a good take. And like I said earlier, that it was criminal for them to cut out that scene. I did enjoy Rocky's entrance into the arena, and this one better. I gotta tell you, you felt the atmosphere. Like, Rocky's in enemy territory. He's really hated. He's looking around. Thought it was really, really, really well done. Drago's entrance wasn't as bad. It wasn't as cinematic as the original one. I'm glad they kept them staring at each other, which is very cinematic the way it looked. But again, I thought Drago's entrance was fine. It was a little different. When they showed him in the middle of the ring before they start fighting, I guess they were trying to go for a little more realistic view of them. But then Drago does some like awkward spin. I don't know. There's like, if you guys seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I understood what he was trying to do with that. They still played the Soviet national anthem. That was well done. That whole part. When we get to the fight again, there's also stuff they cut out. Like Paulie says, remember what I told you back there about wanting to be you? Forget it, to Rocky. And Rocky doesn't say thanks, Paulie. I don't know why they cut that out. I always thought that was funny, but maybe they're going for a more serious tone. I don't know, but they didn't take that part out when Rocky says thanks, Paulie. Minor thing, but I'm just saying, maybe I'm nitpicking. But we get to the fight. The fight was good. It was a little different. Rocky puts up more of a fight in the first round. It's not as one-sided. Rocky's, he's getting his ass whipped, but he's putting up more of a fight. I didn't like some of the new angles he used because it's like it's a little too close, and it's like in between the ropes. And I'm very, very used to the original one, but the fight was still good. You go to the second round. There's some lines cut out too, like with Tony, that I really, really liked. But the fight felt brutal. It felt very, very brutal, and I really enjoyed it. Maybe I'm just getting used to watching this version of the fight. I'm not gonna critique the fight too much. I still enjoyed it. There's different dialogue. I did enjoy the part where he gets cut, and in between rounds, he's asking the corner like, Drago's asking the corner, how's my eye? How's my eye? That was pretty cool. That was something that we didn't see before. But there was stuff they cut out with Tony when Tony's head to head with Rocky, and he's like wanting more than he does. No pain, take it to it, take it to him. They kind of cut that out. He says take it to him, but you guys got to watch the movie. It's not the same. Tony's lines are cut out or just not as impactful in this one. But the fight was really good. I really enjoyed this fight. So obviously you guys know, spoiler alert, Rocky wins the fight. Tremendous fight. I think people are going to like this new version of the fight. It wasn't perfect. Maybe I'm so used to the original one. But the fight was well done. There's a cool scene where the referee's going to stop the fight. Rocky says, you're not going to stop the fight. And then Tony says, why don't you worry about him? Like, the Drago, like, he's hurt too. That was a really cool scene. His speech is a lot shorter. Obviously, he doesn't say, Merry Christmas, kid, I love you. Again, I know why he took it out, because of the robot. I said that, his son is collateral damage. I really always enjoyed that, that scene. Maybe it's a little corny, it's family stuff, but I always liked it. They played Eye of the Tiger at the end of this too, which, like I said, I really wish they would have played Sweetest Victory at the end and they would have played Eye of the Tiger in the beginning, but, it kind of is what it is. He actually touches gloves with Drago. Some people have a problem with that. I don't. I'm a big boxing fan. Touching gloves after a fight, that's kind of tradition, for the most part. I mean, even though he killed Apollo, but it was basically like for Rocky to say, like, I know you're just a pawn. I know they were using you. It's not your fault. And that's the other thing about this movie I didn't mention. Like, Drago is not the robot that he was in the original version. Like, they humanize him. I kind of prefer the Terminator robot Drago from the original, but they humanize him. So there's times where he wants to speak and they cut him off. Like the Soviets, they don't let him speak. So they also at the end of this movie they don't stand and clap. The fans are cheering for Rocky, but like the politicians or whatever, like they don't clap. That's gone. Which I didn't mind. And then they walk out of the ring, and that was pretty much it. So my thoughts, about this movie, basically, I did enjoy it. I do like having an alternate take, but I gotta tell you, like, this isn't better than the original to me. I've seen this already 3 times already. I do enjoy it. I like it. But to me, the first one, it's the perfect movie. It's an 80s action movie, and I know, like, the original Rocky 4 always feels different from the other ones. The other one's more like drama, and Rocky 4 is straight up action, 80s action, and I absolutely love it. It's my favorite movie of all time. It always will be. But I did enjoy this movie. I just really wish they would have just extended the movie. They would have put the new footage in there and not taken anything out. I would have really, really, really enjoyed that. I don't like the fact that they took out footage, and I didn't really care for the alternate takes. I didn't think the alternate takes were better than any of the original takes. So all in all, I will recommend this movie, and if you're a Rocky fan, I recommend it to watch it. I don't think any. Here's my thing. From what I've been seeing, is very divisive. I think that if you are a diehard Rocky 4 fan, you won't think this is better. But if you were kind of like on Rocky 4, you might think this one is actually better. But I still enjoy it, and I'm glad that we got to see it. And I'm glad I got to see it in the movie theater. And for you guys too that saw it in the theater, it was I'm sure you have similar opinions. It was a great experience for you too. So you guys, let me know what you think about this movie. I appreciate it. Like, comment, share, subscribe. It's Mike from Bensonhurst. Keep banging.